to the Clifton Worley Show. This week I have Josh and Nick with me. Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up,
Hey,
Clifford?
Hey, Josh, you've got some topics for us this week.
yeah, this week I think we're going to talk about our Black Friday purchases. We kind of talked about a little bit what we were thinking about getting for the Thanksgiving episode, but now we're going to talk about what we actually might have gotten. We're also going to kind of touch briefly and gently on the gear supply pedal issue, and I think on a larger topic there is the business practices in gear industry and how it might be a little different than what we think. And then also we're going to have our picks today. I've got something interesting, and I know you guys always have some cool stuff that I have to check out. And then we're going to end with a Mojo Minute, and we're going to talk about archtops this week. And I think it's going to be a great time, guys. So let's get right into our first thing. Hey, Clifton, did you buy anything for Black Friday?
Yeah, I bought my kids a Cordoba Coco Mini. Only gear purchase. I agonized over this like all week long. Hey, and I was sending you guys links about things that I thought I might want, and that's the only thing that I pulled the trigger on. So
You know that video that you did. That thing sounds really good.
I
That sounds really
was
good.
pleasantly surprised. It played amazing. It looked amazing. It had the appearance of the quality of a baby Taylor or something
Wow.
like that. Like, yeah,
Wow.
it was well put together. The only thing I think that they could have done better on is the knobs on the tuners that you turn. Like, they're this cheap black plastic that kind of felt cheapy. The tuners didn't really feel cheapy, but the knob did.
Mm.
Other than that, it really was well put together, and it played well. Had a very wide neck width. Was kind of typical with nylon string guitars. So it was playable with big hands, but the neck wasn't like too deep. It was just kind of
Yeah.
wider, so you could kind of reach around, and the string spacing made it easy to play.
And it has a truss rod on it, huh?
It does, and
That's really cool, yeah.
you can adjust that. And I haven't tried to make any adjustments yet, but overall, you're stuck with the artwork for that movie, so I don't know if it'd be something you don't want to be seen out in public playing, but
I don't know. It looks pretty cool, man.
It's subtle. It's subtle.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I think it's especially if kids like that kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
there's designs and stuff like that. But I mean, the new Recording King, like Dirty 30 Parlor with the lily pattern doesn't look much different, and I think that's cool. I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess
And
it's
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's etched in, like you said, and laser etched. I think that's a cool look. I mean, the funny thing is, your recording there that you did, the video. I would like after I watched that on the way home from I kind of watched it for a second in the car while I was closing up, and I was listening to Willie Nelson on the way home, and I was thinking, man, that sounds a lot like Trigger, that guitar,
Yeah.
because it's kind of got that weird kind of in between classical and steel string sound. It really has that kind of sound to it. If they made one of those plain, I think that they'd sell the heck out of them for $125.
Well, plus it's that
yeah.
small body too, that when you put the small body, that's kind of why I'm like really into my parlor guitar right now, just because it's, for some reason, when you make those, those small body guitars have like a certain kind of pop to them. They sound different than everything else does. They don't have, they project a different way. They're not exactly quieter. I think they're equally loud. I think it's more of a bass response in the mid-range
Right.
thing. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was pretty impressed by that thing too. I would have no qualms getting that for like one of my kids when it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great movie too. That Coco. That was a really good movie.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed
I
it.
keep hearing it, and I keep hearing it's sad, and my kids don't want to see it right now. So we're trying to.
It's really hopeful, and it's really not. You cry a little bit, but you know what? You'll laugh and you'll cry, and you'll be really thrilled that your kids are hearing some really good kind of Western swing tinged country music. It's not really mariachi. It's
Right.
it's Western swing tinged country. It's kind of like it's kind of like if Roy Rogers and it's kind of that Roy Rogers, Wills, what's his name? What's
Bruce
the name
Willis.
of that big Bob Will?
Bob
No,
Willis.
Bruce Willis.
I don't know why I
Bruce
said that.
Bruce Willis played harmonica and did that cheeseball '80s song. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah,
You're right.
but that's went back when he had hair. Yeah. So, what did you get, Nick? Did you get anything interesting?
I got a couple things. I took advantage of the sinusoid deal, and on their customer
deal?
Yep, the super secret deal on their customer page, and I've been craving a Tex Flex cable for a while. I have a couple of their cables that are just the red. I forget what I went with, Gotham cables, and they're pretty cool. I don't know why I didn't get Tech Flex the first time. I don't think in the model that I ordered you could get Tech Flex on it. And I think it was the ends or something like that. So I've wanted a Tech Flex for a while, and I was gonna go with the Van Dam white cable with the Forest Tech Flex.
That's cool.
Which it would look really sharp, and I was gonna get the mahogany ends on it.
Oh wow!
But then I was like, I changed my mind. I was thinking about my guitars and kind of like my thing, and I was like, I bet you nobody got this rattlesnake thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
It was a little cheesy, and I was like, I got to get one of these. So I ended up with I went with Megami this time. It was a little more flexible, and the capacitance or whatever was similar to what I got last time. So not that my ears can notice, but I got that, and I got I got one right angle GHS end, and I got a stubby end on the other. So I went with the black Megami, and then I got the Rattlesnake Tech Flex, and that should look really, really cool. I think I got a 12-foot cable. I went with an odd, just because I usually wrap it behind my strap to put it in the acoustic jack.
Yeah.
And that's usually about 6 inches right there. So I wanted to give myself a little bit more room. But I'm pretty pumped to see that. That's in the mail right now. And the other thing I got was my dad keeps ranting and raving about Donner deal, like Donner pedals.
Yeah.
And now I don't know if this is accurate or not, but my dad told me he watches a lot of videos on these things, and he told me that, I don't know if it was Shane from In the Blues or something, said that what Donner basically does is they buy up all the leftover stock from like Moore and like Rowan and like all those other companies, Hot One or Hotone or whatever you call it. I don't know. I like Hotone. I don't know why. I think it's funny, but anyway, and then they rebrand them. Then I've heard other people say that Donner's components aren't as good as the Moores. I don't know if I believe that or not. They're probably all coming out of the same place. But if you sign up for Donner deals, you get 500 awards points, and that's equal to $5 off. And just for signing up. So I ended up I took advantage. They had a Black Friday deal on the Yellow Fall delay. And it's usually 20, or I think it's usually $25, $30, and they marked it down to 20. So with the $5 for signing up, it was $15 shipped.
Oh,
wow, yeah, that's almost.
That's how you do it.
That's just playing money to. I mean, the price of entry is not very high at all.
No.
So just something to
Not
see.
at all. I mean, in that yellow. Yeah.
I pay more than that at Arby's for lunch.
And that Yellow Fall delay, guys, that Yellow Fall delay is a good pet. My dad already ordered one like 2 months ago, and I got to play with it that weekend before I bought it. I was messing around with it, and it's a good little delay. I mean, it's a digital delay. And it does. All I wanted it for was slapback, but it does the long delay thing too. It takes up very little space. I mean, it's a very small pedal. But for $15 shipped, you couldn't beat it. And I got $150 in rewards for buying it.
Wow.
And I mean, you get for every dollar. I mean, it's 100 points. So I mean, you are not 100 points, but I mean, for every 10, it's 100 points. So it's a good deal. My dad keeps buying stuff from them because he just keeps accumulating the points, and then he essentially just gets a free pedal.
It's a cool idea.
So, I was looking at some other stuff there too. They've got power supplies, and it's all imitations of other stuff that's out there. I mean, it's definitely all imported stuff, and they have some other brands. I think Nux is on there, and Yeah, some of that other stuff, and they got a couple really cool ones. One's a modulation unit, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I compare it to a really, really cheap version of like the Chemist. It does like all these different like modulations. It does flanger and phaser and
Yeah.
tremolo, all that stuff, and it's got just the knobs of dial, and then it's got like a level
Hmm.
control, um, and then a tone control, I think, and that's like a $35 pedal, and
Hmm.
but I mean, I kept thinking of like Phil from the Slum, I
Yeah.
mean, if you wanted to build a board for kids, or you wanted to squeeze one more pedal on your board or something like that, and it's funny because I like Josh, you and I talked about buying like a Rowan Trelicopter. Like I've wanted a Rowan Trelicopter tremolo
Yeah.
forever. Well, Donner's got one, and it's the same pedal, only it's gold and it's got a mustache on it.
Oh man, come on.
It's like the same. It's funny because you can tell they're like Moore pedals and like
Uh-huh.
Rowan pedals, but they have a different color and then a different name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all these different ones, and it's kind of it's funny. But yeah, so those are the two things I got. Then I took advantage of String Joy's deal, and I got a set of strings that was 20% off. And usually I just take advantage of whatever they give me, and when I have to order a set of strings, and you get a lot of discounts from them anyway. So I took advantage of that, and I also took advantage of Reverb's sale, and I got a set of Fred Kelly picks for $10 too,
Oh, that's good.
um, shipped, just a 3-pack, because I'd mentioned I was burning through those. So it wasn't a super busy Black Friday but I got some stuff I needed. So I didn't even spend $100, but I got a lot, really. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, Josh?
Well, I think Nick's gonna he's gonna groan at me, but for Black Friday I ended up getting two things. I got my mic mechanic, which is a TC Helicon mic mechanic, runs on
Hmm.
12 volts, and I just used it the first time last night, and holy cow, it was great. It was so nice to have that, to be able to gain it in and dial it in just right, and I could just kind of sing into my microphone and not be thinking about the microphone for the first time ever. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I can just stand in the sweet spot of the microphone and I can sing, not worry about my volume, not worry about my I can just use my voice, my speaking voice to sing rather than having to try to push and make that mic react.
Yeah.
And so it's nice because I could use a lot more dynamics in my singing. I could actually kind of, and the cool thing that they don't tell you is not only is there a pop filter and a de-esser, um, the compression is really reactive. And so, say if you're going to sing low and you kind of back off a little bit and you sing low and back off rather than push up and get proximity effect, um, the compression makes that sound almost the same volume.
Oh
And then
wow.
if you push hard, if you sing hard, once it gets the hang of it, you can't do it right off the bat. It's got to kind of get used to you. But if you sing hard, it doesn't allow you to clip, and it doesn't allow you to blow out the mic. It's
Yeah.
it's like it's like I can use my full range of dynamics and just move back and forth a little bit, like kind of rock back a touch, rock forward a touch, and like I can get like condenser level dynamics with my
Yeah.
with my cheap Heil mic. I don't know what my mic is. It's like the Heil something. It's not the SM57. It's kind of, I think it's more towards a Sennheiser sound because it's pretty open.
Yeah.
It's not a 57 or 58 type of sound. And then I ended up using my backstage pass points and the Black Cyber Monday deal to get a Behringer 80 something Xenix mixer, and I ended up paying $1.60 for it. I ended up paying $1.60 for that mixer, and it's a 6-channel mixer, has phantom power, and it's gonna be a lot of fun because I can actually use my rig to record direct in and record video without having to also record in Audacity, then overlay the audio, and so hopefully that'll encourage me to do it. Plus, having that automatic EQ means that I don't have to spend a half an hour in Audacity dialing in the EQ on my mic, because dynamic mics just do not sound good without a lot of EQ going on into them,
Yeah.
in my
You're
opinion.
right. You're right.
Yep. And so I'm really looking forward to getting that mixer and getting that all set up. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and now I'll have it, and I'll maybe be able to start doing some stuff um, without feeling like it's not good. If I'm going to record it, I want it to sound decent. and I don't want to put a lot of work into it because I'm exceedingly lazy. Yeah, that's the thing. I want to just be able to do it. The other thing is, I've noticed that if I don't have everything set up, like if I don't have guitars out, if I don't have my recording set up for recording, then I don't do it, because just setting it up, it's like, okay, that's like a barrier to entry. 5-10 minutes, I've got to put this together. Screw it, I'll just watch Netflix, that kind of thing. Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like we had a pretty successful Black Friday, but not only that, we kind of controlled ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, and so I think we've got time to hit this topic. This is kind of a diversion, but what about maybe real quick, the deal that got away?
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah,
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Not necessarily Black Friday, but any deal that got away, you're saying?
Yeah, like this week in the cyber.
Oh, this week.
Yeah, anything that you've seen that's I wanted to do that, but you didn't.
I got one right away. I really wanted that Mr. Black pedal sale, the Mr. Black solid state echo unit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really wanted that. That looked sweet. And it was a great deal. I've been looking at Mr. Black pedals for a while, and they're usually up in the $200 range or $180 range. And I think that solid state echo unit was like $100 or something like that. And then if you bought, like Cole was talking about it, I think he did it. If you bought 3 of them or 2 pedals, you got the Marshall pedal free. And
I think it was Steve on 60 Cycles said that, or he did that deal.
Oh, was it Steve that did it?
Yeah.
Somebody might have done it from Slum too. I didn't pay enough attention to that, but it was like, it was Steve. You're right. Steve from 60 Cycle did it. He paid $265 and got like the solid state echo and the eternal reverb, and then he got that Marshall. That's a really good deal. But I just really wanted the solid state one. I thought that'd be really cool. But that was the one that I would have liked to have cashed on. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. What about you, Josh?
Well, I was 50-50 on. One of my students ended up getting it from his mom for Christmas. It's going to happen, but I was 50-50 on just ordering that Mustang, for $119. And
that was a great buy, man.
Yeah, and you see people getting them in, and most of them have been pretty nice that they got in. And I really thought, man, I do not need another guitar. And I'm just getting to the point where this Talman is just me now, and it just fits me and nothing else does as far as electrics go. And to put another guitar with a radically different neck into the mix.
Yeah.
So I skipped it, and I'm like, well, man, it's $40 less, right? I mean, it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
I mean, if Brian was 2 years older, if my son was 2 years older, I'd say, yeah, I better get that because it's a real guitar for the price. And he's already got my old orange amp, and he'd be able to rock that for 20 years probably if he wanted to, because that's a good guitar.
You got the better and cooler guitar in that Tallman anyway.
Well, it really works for me, and I didn't know if I would, but it just really works for me. So I mean, the other one would have been nice, especially in one of those surf colors. I mean, they're pretty cool. The surf green color there that they had, I think it was. But yeah, for me, that's what got away kinda. That, and then there was that, I really thought about getting that the Echo that they had on sale for an $89 or $99 on Friday. They had the Echo, the one with the slot head, the Parlor, a musician's friend.
Oh yes.
They had it on sale for $89 for like.
Oh yeah, that EKO.
That's like. That thing looks so cool. It looks so me. The size of it, the shape of it, the fact that it's a slot head, and I've had slot head steel strings before, and I really liked them. And it's like, man, I want that. But then I thought, when am I going to play it?
It's a hot look too. That slot head look is just it really adds a lot to a guitar, in my opinion, when you get those vintagey looking guitars. And the EKO is kind of a relaunched line, isn't it? Didn't they?
They were Italian. They were an Italian brand, weren't they? EKO. They were. Yeah, I thought that they were one of those Italian brands.
It was either. I think it is Italian. I see a lot of vintage EKO like 12 strings.
Yeah.
On reverb all the time, and they look. I think the EKO Ranger it's called, and they look super cool. I've wanted to buy one multiple times.
Yeah.
Now they're out and better because they have truss rods and stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I liked. I liked all the convenience of it. I liked the size of it because I bet I could probably take that into the take that onto a carry-on maybe, or I could, easily just throw it in the back of the car because it's all laminates and just take it with me when I go somewhere, So what about you, Clifton? Did you see something that you missed and now you're kicking yourself?
Well, I almost pulled the trigger like you on that Squire in the surf green. I wanted to do that, but you made a very good point that especially this time of year when you're trying to buy all the other Christmas presents and everything, $40 extra, like let's say in the summer, is not so out of reach when $740 now, even though you're outlaying the cash, it makes things tight. So I don't mind paying a little bit more later. And the thing is, if $40 is the difference between you buying something or not, you probably don't need it.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And I intended to buy some of the doorbuster deals that on Sinusoid had. Like, they had made up some cables and they had like a limited supply. And they were even less than like some of the stuff you were getting the discount codes on. And I meant to do that, and for some reason I just forgot. So
yeah, me too. I didn't even count that because I completely blew my mind because I do need some more cables.
I had one more that comes to mind. I almost pulled the trigger on that Supro that was like $350 at Sam Ash. I don't know why, but I thought it looked cool, and it was like a third of the price, or maybe like 65% off.
Well, something's going on with that, though. Yeah. I think because they posted the single humbucker one, and that one was even cheaper on another site. And I'm like, why is that model marked down so low? Like, is it just not selling, or is it's just strange because like Supro has been kind of a hot brand, and then they marked that amp way down, the Supro amp. I've seen that for, that was almost 30 to 40% off on a couple sites. Sweetwater had that one, that Supro tube amp, and then that guitar was marked way down.
Yeah,
like ridiculously far down. So I know people were probably eyeballing them for the flip, but I just don't know.
Yeah. You know what? This actually transits into our next topic really well because, I get the sneaking suspicion looking at what they're doing that they're preparing to sell. They're preparing to sell the brand, and they want to push out as much product as possible to make their numbers look better, so that they can, sell for more. Do you know what I'm saying?
To who though? Eastwood Airline? I mean, who?
I think Fender.
Yeah. You think Fender?
Mm-hmm. I think Fender would buy it. I think they would take that and they would shift, because if you look at what Fender's doing right now with, because they own Gretsch too, and if you look at the way Fender's going, that's what they don't have. They don't have a brand of funky guitars that they can do really weird things with and try and then bring it back into the other lines, because that's kind of what they do. If they had Supro, like they had D'Armond, remember they had D'Armond for a while?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're right.
And they had those guitars were great. I had a D'Armond and I loved it, and I should have never sold it, and it was so cheap at the time. I mean, I bought it for like $350, and now they're going for $500, and I sold it for $200. Stupid me.
Doesn't Fender own Jackson too?
I believe
they own
do.
Jackson, Charvel, and so I think this would round out their brands nicely. I wouldn't doubt if next year, plus the Supro amp there, everybody looks at Fender and they think, well, that's a good standard amp. You know what I mean? That Supro amp would give them something really funky that they could sell alongside of it with a little bit of rebranding, and then they could use their supply chain and their way of doing things to make them faster and cheaper and move it over to Mexico.
To be fair, though, Fender has that funky looking tube amp too, though. The Retro Rocket or the Retro Verb or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, they did the Pawn Shop series too.
Yeah. But
it's because it says Fender on it.
Yeah, it's not the Supro name. That's what I was going to say. Like, maybe they just want that name to slap on the amplifier.
This is all just speculation, but it's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, it would be a good move, I think.
That's a good call, Josh. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, my cynical nose is like kind of twitching and sniffing a little bit. It's like, something's happening there. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Nick, because I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, I want to say this, that all of us have a kind of a background in college in the business or marketing world, and I want to know you guys' thoughts on, we saw like Gear Supply. They came out with a Black Friday ad on their pedals, and correct me if I'm wrong, but did he say like $50 off? Was that the deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that, right?
He was advertising $50 off on a pedal line that he just put out, and there's guys who chatter on a lot of the Facebook groups that haven't received their orders that they pre-ordered already, and they paid full price, or maybe they got like a little bit of special pricing, but not quite that kind of discount. And from a business perspective, I want to know your guys' thoughts on, is that a bad move? Is that destroying your brand?
Oh, well, all right. I guess I'll go first. I don't like it. I've kind of held my tongue on it. I finally posted on that like a thread the other day how I felt about it. I kind of feel like what's happened with them is because what I've seen Gear Supply as is it's been product that you can get anywhere, that you slap a cool logo on, cool marketing, cool packages. You make it available for a subscription service or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you basically have created a middleman and you branded the middleman. But you're not getting anything unique. This pedal line I almost jumped in on because it looked cool. I liked the way they looked, and they were bringing in some known pedal builder who had some original designs or schematics. He said that's what the claim was, from what I remember on a couple Instagram things and some stuff I saw, and everything looked pretty cool. And I liked that it wasn't gimmicky, like it was like light drive, medium drive, preamp pedal. I thought that was kind of cool. And then the price seemed right. I think it was, what was it, like $135 to buy in or something like that? Or
it was a crowdfunding thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. You get like, it was like a what was it, like $25 or $30 discount?
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
You bought in. So I thought, okay, that's cool. I haven't seen it done that way, but I'm sure that they're going to hit their, the reports on everything was, it seemed like they were really filling up fast and with these pre-orders. So I thought about it and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I just don't really want to do it. And then when I kept on watching the, social media and kept seeing that people still didn't have them. I got all these posts about how they hit Rocky, I saw all these posts about how they hit Rocky Road. They lost people. They were down to a one-man operation. Some of the stuff was delayed a long time, and I was like, okay, I could see where this would be a problem. Like, they kind of set themselves up for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to me like they bit off more than they could chew. And the problem, I can't really say that it was a bad idea to do the Kickstarter thing, because if you need equity and you want to get something going, that can be a smart way to do it if you're sure that you can fulfill what you're promising. But I think in the gear industry, and when somebody throws down that kind of money, it's not like other gear starters, or other Kickstarters. People want their stuff.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And musicians aren't. I don't know that many patient musicians, to be honest with you.
No.
These are bargain hunters, and there's so much product out there to purchase, and there's so many boutique pedals and so many builders out there. And this company comes in and they're like, well, this is this new thing and whatnot, and you can buy in on it. And it felt really kind of like, oh, it's an inclusive deal or an exclusive deal or whatever. And you can walk away with these things. And I was shocked that people didn't have them. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? It looks like this guy's fixing it. He's going to get the pedals out. These people are going to get their pedals, just not when they want them.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the doorbuster, I was like, oh, look at that. They must be all caught up and they must be doing, that must be all good now. Now they're closing out, now they're doing a doorbuster. And then when I found out that people hadn't received the product yet, I was like, all right, that's greasy. I'm like, that's not cool. If I would have been one of those people that bought in on that, I'd have been furious. I'd want my money back, or I'd at least want the discount. And
Yeah.
then they went on there and said, well, yeah, you can get the discount. Just let me know, but you move back in the order. And I'm like, well, that's bull.
Yeah.
That's absolutely, but no. Yeah, okay,
That's not how it works.
I get it. I bought in on a certain promise on a certain day. That is the price I said I would pay. In business, that's the deal. If you buy something, most places, and it goes on sale the next day, most places are not going to give you that discount unless it's Guitar Center that just wants to sell stuff. They're doing terrible. But on the other hand, they didn't fulfill their promise to me either. So, and even if they're not obligated to, that still doesn't show very good customer service.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not coming back. That it may be, perfectly legal and fine, and some people may think it's they're within their rights to do all of that, and that's great. And some people may think it's an ethical thing to do. Ethics aside, it's terrible customer service.
Yeah.
No matter how you slice it. And in this day and age of all the gear you could ever want at your fingertips, customer service means something. People like the guys at Sinusoid have crafted a business out of customer service.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, cables are cables are cables are cables, and people are using the same materials. But the customer service for the Sinusoid guys and the attention to detail and the care, that's their product. And this is just a bad move by them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a bad move. They shouldn't have done it. I mean, I feel like they felt obligated to do it because everybody was doing something, and they're like, all right, we got to bounce back and we got to make some money. But it wasn't a good time. I think you do something like that after all the pedals are where they should be, and then you find a reason to have a sale.
Yes.
Yes. That's my take.
What do you think, Josh?
Well, to me, I kind of agree with most of what Nick said, almost all of it, I think. But for me, the problem with this whole thing is that Gear Supply, through their marketing and branding, has made themselves look like a big company.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole problem with them. Is that, and with a lot of these manufacturers, even the bigger manufacturers, guess what? Even the biggest pedal manufacturer, except for like Boss, because they make everything else, if Boss and Roland weren't making everything else, they'd still be a small company, in the grand scheme of things. Where they're serving a very small niche, and they're not making a ton of stuff, even the biggest ones there,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Boss and Roland are legitimately a big company. I think, Digitech's legitimately a big company, but most of these other guys, they're not big. Even TC. You think about TC. I don't think about TC Electronic as a big company. Because, you know what I mean? I don't think about them like that because Torre is on everything, talking to everybody,
Yep.
and all the other TC guys are out there just being TC guys, and that makes you feel like, yeah, they're just people, right? And you're going to be a lot more forgiving of people than you will be of a corporation.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so if you look at Wampler and Keeley, they both look like people. They're just people there. And so Wampler recently had the issue with their
Tumnus?
their output jacks on the Tumnus Deluxe, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
No, that was Keeley had the issue with with their output jacks. Took care of it right away. And JHS had that issue with their Pink Panther.
Yeah.
They took care of that right away. And then Wampler had that issue with the Tumnus, and they took care of it right away. And guess what? People were forgiving of it because Wampler is Brian Wampler, and a bunch of other people, but it's Brian Wampler. Keeley is Robert Keeley and a bunch of other people. JHS is Josh Scott, right? That's what you think of. You don't think of it as a company. Gear Supply Co. from the beginning, maybe unintentionally, they come up with this cool stuff, but it makes them look like a faceless corporation. And you can't be both. You can't look like and put out yourself as this faceless corporation that has the logistics all figured out and everything, and be the single guy and be able to do the excuses, that a single guy can have.
The excuses is the problem.
Yeah,
it's like Wampler and JHS, Josh, and they all came out. They said that there was an issue and they were fixing the issue.
Yeah,
that was it. This is like the second time I've seen like trauma or like drama, like, oh, something happened and it was terrible, and feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I'm like, dude, don't do that. Don't get on here when people are angry and do that. Just say, you know what? You're right. You're
We made a
right.
mistake.
We need to get these products in your hands. You guys get the discount. Contact me. We'll go from there.
If they had taken that discount and instead say, okay, your pre-orders, we're not going to be able to give you your money back on that, but we'll give you $50 in credit towards our business. And guess what that would do?
Yeah.
That would put them that would turn a negative into a positive, and ta-da, guess what? You've got a customer that may turn that into a monthly subscription. You take that and you turn it into because there's no such thing as bad exposure. You flip that exposure on his head, and you could have had 15 new customers who were just there for the Kickstarter.
Yeah, dude, I'll take a credit. There's nothing wrong with
that's a couple packs of strings and a strap, or whatever. Yeah.
And it's just letting the customer know that you care. That's all that is. But Clifton, I think we need to let you talk now.
Yeah. Well, I just, I kind of got into a similar situation because I was a super fan of a certain amplifier company that I'm not going to name here that started doing these kind of things and then not delivering on their product. And then the guy kind of, had some personal tragedies happen where he couldn't deliver. And, to make a long story short, I got my amps. I've talked to people who didn't get their amps.
Yeah.
I kind of see some similarities here. Gear Supply has some super fans, people that I know that I interact with on social media. And so I want to be careful not to, step on their toes. I never bought into the hype with this company. It was neither here nor there. But I think in the big picture, like you see companies in the gear world making these types of moves every now and then and kind of fumbling with their marketing strategy, alienating their super fans a little bit to try to get back on their feet. And I don't know how far you can go and not destroy your brand.
Yeah.
And so I hate to see that because that's evidently somebody's livelihood.
Yeah, we don't want him to fail.
No, I don't want him
to fail. He needs a marketing manager is what he needs.
Nobody wants him to fail, but get your stuff in a row before you start throwing product out there again with discounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens all the time in the gear world. Every year or so you have the person who, is really out there.
Blows up.
Yeah. And that's why, I'm reluctant to buy into the hype of a new product sometimes, especially seeing the crowdfunding thing, how this went. I would be reluctant to do that again. The only way I would do that, and even then I would have reservations, is like if I personally knew this person and I believed in them.
Yeah. Like if Leon put out a 3-button drive, like two stages and a boost.
Yeah.
If Pelican Noiseworks put out a 3-button drive that had 3 good stages as what was going on, and put it on Kickstarter and said I've got to reach this level, that might be something I consider.
But he has a proven track record where he's done these special runs and he's delivered.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. If he put out something like that, heck, if he put out a modded pedal, if he said, okay, I'm going to buy 3 dozen of these Rusty Fuzzes from TC and do this little mod to each one of them and sell them for $40 more each, that might be something that that I consider backing, because basically he would crowdfund the amount that he needs, and he would do everything without going into a credit card debt or whatever kind of debt he uses. And, I would do something like that, but I wouldn't do something with somebody I have no idea about, or I don't know about what they're doing. because in part because of this, I'm not waiting 6 months for a drive pedal.
No, not at all.
I'm not. That's ridiculous.
And you
That's
know what the
ridiculous.
shame is on the hindsight of that is I saw like Jamie Davis post something about, well, I'm on the pre-order thing. I still haven't gotten my thing. Here's one that's popped up used that's less than what I paid.
Yeah.
It's like
that's exactly his drive.
I would
Yeah,
be.
but
I would be
that
so
person
upset.
was from Adrian.
But the thing is that person got that drive after waiting for it. And so the thing is that, especially with this kind of stuff where it's really subjective, you have to wait too long for it. It builds up in your mind, Yeah. And you're like, is this worth? It's kind of like when you want to watch a movie and you start getting hyped up for that movie. And it's not a bad movie. Actually, it's a great movie, but it's not what you were expecting for the hype that you got in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe he was just angry and just wanted to abandon ship.
Oh, you mean the guy who's selling it?
Yeah, the guy that's selling it.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just like, you know what? No, I'm done.
And I know how that feels. Like, oh, this has just got bad blood in it. Like, I just want to get it out of my mind, get it out of sight.
Yeah. Now it's interesting that this kind of brought to my mind everybody who's doing it right, because kind of before we started, I was thinking, well, with this topic, we're going to be talking about a lot how people do it wrong. But if you really think about it, the people we know who are doing it, most of them are doing it right.
Absolutely.
Even Leon, who is by all accounts a very small company. It's basically him and Justin, right, that are doing those pedals. Justin's doing some of the electrical parts, and I think he's assembling some of the pelletars and some of the other things, and then Leon's doing a lot of the design and doing that too. So it's like that's two people doing a job right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the bigger companies like Wampler and Keeley and even TC seems to do everything pretty much right. And, going up to Boss can do no wrong, really. They do everything just perfect, pretty much, because they know how to run a business. But so it's actually, I come out of this conversation feeling like, most of the people in the gear world, they're doing it right. It's these little guys that are trying to be big guys that probably could do with some marketing consulting or a really good business plan. That wouldn't cost them that much to get somebody to do for them.
Absolutely.
Or just somebody in business that they could call and say, "Hey, I'm dealing with this issue. What would you do in this situation?"
Yeah.
I think it's more.
It's very much a guy who's passionate about his. I mean, a lot of times this is the scenario. Guys who's passionate about his craft. He's good at what he does, but he doesn't know how to handle the business end of it.
Yeah. Or maybe it was just a little bit of PR. Like maybe he just needed some PR help. Like, okay, hey, here's my deal. Also, I'm thinking about doing this Black Friday thing. What do you think about that? It's and maybe he did. Maybe you received some bad advice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We don't know enough of that. All we know is what he's come out and said has been basically a sob story, and nobody's really sympathetic about it because it's like, all right, well, all you really had to tell me was I'm going to get my stuff and you're going to give me credit or something. You're going to make up for this. But I don't even think he would have had the problem had he not done that sale.
It was on that. People had already accepted it. It was just it's just that little thing of perception and being able to flip something over on its heel, because he could have came out so much stronger. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe you're right. Maybe other things will happen. It's just I don't like seeing that. It's a pretty simple thing to shift. But if you're really passionate about something, you need to get the other side of it too. It's like musicians who go out there and have tons of talent, but have no ability to manage their business. And
Exactly.
there's lots of musicians out there who can't do it. There's people who maybe aren't the most talented musician on earth, but do a amazing job with their marketing and end up putting it in my mailbox every week, even though I've blocked them. Joe Bonamassa. Yeah.
Wait.
How did we get into Joe here?
You see, but no, he's like super businessman. He's not a bad guy.
Well, he's a blues lawyer.
Well, he's a blues marketer, man.
Uh-huh.
He's a blues marketer.
Yeah.
He is. He's self-made. He's his own company. But maybe he. And you know what? That's what Josh needed. Josh needed Josh needed Joe Bonamassa to come out
yes.
on Black Friday and say something else.
He should say the only pedals that I use are these ones.
Oh my! Heads explode as Joe Bonamassa claims that Gear Supply pedals are the only pedals on his board.
They are the only pedals that guitar players should use are Gear Supply pedals. Anybody who doesn't use Gear Supply pedals is just lazy.
Actually, I think Joe was caught up in a couple. Like, wasn't Joe the artist on the Vertex thing?
Yeah, he was. I think, wasn't he?
He blew the whistle. He blew the whistle on that, I thought.
And then right after Now, he made a big stink about. He said something about Vertex as well.
Well, he's had a lot to say about that. He's I mean, he's got his own forum too. I actually stumbled on it the other day. There's a Joe Bonamassa forum, an entire forum dedicated to Joe.
All right. I think that if we keep going here, it's going to end up going to some directions that we don't want to go into. So let's change that direction and go into some cool stuff that we can look at and enjoy and maybe inspire us a little bit. Let's go into our picks for this week. Clifton, do you have a pick for this week?
Yeah, a guy named Brent Cobb. He sounds like Boomhauer a little bit. But he's good. He's a good writer. He's been writing country hits for some other people. He's just starting to emerge as his own artist. And if you kind of his voice is unique, but if you listen to some of his past albums, it's kind of James Taylor-ish that segues into country music. And then his new thing is a different thing on its own. He's got a single out for his brand new album on iTunes and probably Spotify and all those other places. But I would go check him out. He's worth a listen. If you like country / southern rock / folk rock, you would like him.
That sounds cool. That's a little bit of a different take. Yeah.
What's his new album called?
Road Too Long, I think, is the name of the single.
Road Too Long.
Or Ain't a Road Too Long. I'll have to look it up. But it's
yeah, there it is. Ain't a Road Too Long. Wow, he's really he's been doing this. He's growing up some.
Yeah.
It looked like his first albums he's just a kid. He's got a shirt on in this one that says "It's always dirtier down south."
Welcome to the dirty South, y'all.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick for sure. So, hey, Nick, what about you? Do you have something for this week?
Yeah, I think so.
Excitement there.
You know what's funny? I'm going further down this country Americana folk country path. I started listening to Walking the Floor Over You, Chris Shiflett's podcast. Yeah. And he's got a lot of people on there. And I've been kind of checking a lot of people out. But I'm really the one I'm really liking right now is Tyler Childers.
Oh yeah.
I gave you guys I sent you guys a couple of his Office EP where it was just him in an acoustic. And he had a song called Grindstone and another one called White House Road. But I listened to his interview on. I didn't download any more after that, and I listened to his interview on Walking the Floor Over You, and I actually checked out his album Purgatory, which is the one. I don't know if he's done another album since, or if Purgatory is. I think it was an old interview. I mean, because he started playing in 2011, and he was really young. I think he was 21 or 22, and Purgatory is really polished. Let me take a look and see when this was. It was okay. So Purgatory came out August 4th, 2017. So it's a new album, and that White House Road's on it. There's a great song on it called Honky Tonk Flame, and another one called Universal Sound. And this really, I mean, I remember sending it to Clifton. Clifton said it sounded kind of bluegrassy to him, and Chris said something about that to him too. He said, "Man, he goes, how would you define that sound that you have, that mountain sound that sounds a lot like bluegrass?" And he kind of just said it's kind of just hard charging like a bottle of whiskey, is basically what he said. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. And he grew up listening to a lot of Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. And you can really hear this, like this album sounds like straight country to me. Like you know, like that outlaw country really sounds like a Merle Haggard type of record. It's even got some cool sounds and stuff on there too. Whoever his guitar player was. But man, that's a great album. Tyler Childers' Purgatory. Check it out. That's another really solid country album. You know, it's funny. I thought country music was terrible right now. I'm starting to find all of these people that are hardly known.
Yeah.
You know, people know Chris Stapleton, and he's kind of leading the charge on it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many other artists that are a lot like him that are, you know, kind of under the radar right now, just waiting to pop.
Yeah.
Maybe they just need bedazzled jeans or something. I don't know.
It's almost better that they don't, though, man, because they pop. It's gonna shift to that Nashville sound, and it's gonna get so polished that it turns into nothing. And that's my problem with it, with most country. I mean, if you had that same country guy singing guitar or singing, then you know what? I probably wouldn't mind that song so much. It's when you take a song about getting drunk and making bad decisions, and you put what you know are 40 tracks of something or other on it. It's incongruity, you know. It's like putting a bunch of sugar on a steak, you know.
Yeah,
a bunch of
I totally know what you mean. Dude. Like, okay, so in this interview, and it was either Ryan Bingham or it was Tyler Childers. I listened to them back to back, so I might get this confused. But one of them said the moment they started gaining a little bit of ground and they wanted to record, like, one of the producers or something was like, all right, now we got to get you in a silver jacket and we need you to sing a song about being on the beach with your truck. And he was like, what? No, I don't even.
Shoulders.
Yeah. What's that?
What's the other one?
It was
Bingham.
It was Ryan Bingham, and his album was great too, Mescalito. That is an unbelievable album. But yeah, because Ryan, that's right, because Ryan Bingham was talking about doing Crazy Heart. He did some songs and he was in Crazy.
Yeah,
I know that guy.
And he's older. That was a good interview. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty successful. He's got his own label, but that's one of the reasons, I guess, why he made his own label, because he was like, yeah, this is real music here. And didn't buy into that whole thing. But yeah, I think they do try to force all these people into that whole like Rascal Flatts type thing, you know. And
the Eagles did it. It's the Eagles' fault. I'm telling you. You go back and
country music too.
The Eagles ruined country music because of the overproduction. I'm telling you. You look at what they did, and the reason the country music's like that is because they saw the success of the Eagles and they put it out like that. If you look at that polish starts in the Eagles. Before that, you know, even if you look before that, country was still kind of rough and kind of it fit with itself. There was still the rhinestone stuff, but the Eagles polish made it so that everybody sounded kind of the same. And I'm telling you, you're going to start seeing connections there. You're going to have a board up on your wall, and you're going to have little red dots and little red threads going all of it, and it's all going to come back to the Eagles.
So we need to title this episode "The Controversy of Country Music."
Yeah, forget about everything else we just talked about.
Hey, they don't call me Agent K for nothing. I've been watching this for years.
You've done special investigation.
Yeah. So listen, did you have another pick there this week here, Nick, or was that
No, it's Clifton. Clifton already did a pick, right?
Yes. Oh, so it's my turn.
It's your turn.
So it's your turn.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay. Now you get to hear.
Here comes the documentary.
No, actually, no. It's a podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there's two particular episodes that I want to recommend. It's the New Yorker Radio Hour, and they did an interview with Bruce Springsteen, which I never really liked Bruce Springsteen before, but I love the interview.
Uh-huh.
And then they did an interview with Nick Lowe, and the two interviews that they did, they're great because they're just so casual and relaxed, and you really hear. I mean, there's a real beauty in the way that Bruce Springsteen speaks, even if I don't really care for his music so much, because it feels like I know he wasn't, but it feels like a college student's attempt to be a blue collar guy. You know, is what I always feel like when I listen to him sing. But the songwriting is really tight. but I mean, you listen to him do the interview, and it's just every word that comes out of his mouth is just really, it's beautiful. I mean, it's like a really interesting way of speaking. And then Nick Lowe is Nick Lowe and just the best. So,
did Nick Lowe do Orange Sky?
Nick Lowe did Peace, Love, and Understanding. He did Cruel to Be Kind. He was in Rockpile, I think it was. And there was a couple other places. And he did All Men Are Liars. Have you heard that song?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he mentions Rick Astley and talks about his song being a complete lie. It's a good song. You should look it up. It kind of sounds like a novelty song, but he's so clever in everything he says that you're like, by the end, you're like, yeah, that's pretty much true. That's pretty much true. So that's what I recommend. New Yorker Radio Hour in those 2 episodes. And actually, I found that on Spotify, and I just kind of let it play. And there was a bunch of interviews that were really good, but those 2 really stood out to me, and they made me think. They made me think about music in a kind of a different way because of the way that Bruce Springsteen talked about it. I still wish that I could enjoy his music, but it feels like there's too much artifice to me. I mean, it feels like you're trying to be something, and you never really were that person, but you're trying to be that person to kind of understand your dad, and that's okay. But
how is he not that person? How is that?
He never worked a day in his life except for being a musician, right? And he does all this blue collar stuff on there that he's never really did. His dad did it, and so that's fine. But he never did it. He never did a job. He was always a musician from the time he was like 14, and so he sounds like this. He sounds like this greaser, mechanic, factory worker guy, and he really does that. But I mean, he really does a good job of doing that. But he never was that.
Josh, he's the boss. He doesn't have to work.
Okay, so he's also wait a minute. So you're saying he's also the boss? Okay, he's the boss. He's the guy in charge, singing about the people who are working. Oh, that's great. Oh, thank you, boss, for singing about me. You got salary and I'm hourly. Thank you, boss.
He's trying to make people who work feel better and proud about working.
Meanwhile, he's sitting in his corner office with his suit on because he's the boss.
So they can't do what he does.
They can't do it.
That's why they're working.
We could really get into some interesting conversations on this topic, I'm sure.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we're ready to do this next one. Nick, are you ready for the Mojo Minute?
Oh, I am so ready.
Hey, so what are we talking about this week, Nick?
We are talking about archtops. I don't really have a particular guitar to talk about, although I do have a Regal Recording King from the 40s up on reverb right now. And the reason why, it's weird. Like lately I've been kind of drawn to these things lately. So this all kind of started, I went into Rainbow Music like a month ago. And they had actually it was longer than that. But they had a Regal archtop from the 40s in there, and it had like this really crazy abalone inlaid headstock and this crazy pick guard and this weird binding, and like it was super cool. I picked it up and I couldn't play it at all. I mean, I couldn't play it. The neck was a baseball bat. It was super thin on the actual width of the neck. The width was crazy thin at the top by the nut. And the radius was weird, and I mean, and it had been set up too. Somebody set it up, and I could not play this guitar. And then I went in there again a couple weeks later, and they had a Silvertone archtop in the back that one of the owners, John, showed me, and it had also been set up. And that guitar played great, but it had the baseball neck, and it was thin. It just played a little bit better than the Regal, and it was a little bit newer than the Regal. I think it was made in the 50s, but I've been seeing, since I saw those 2 guitars, I've been seeing them. First I wondered, and I know why they didn't have pickups, because a lot of them were made before that. But I started seeing them all over the place with pickups added to them. Like, how you can get the archtop pickups that are bolted to the neck, the floating pickups and stuff. So basically when electric guitar became popular, people had these archtops, they wanted to convert them into electrics so they could play jazz or big band or whatever that was and keep up with everybody. so they had pickups installed. Well, I'm finding all these butchered arch tops on Reverb that have pickups added a million different ways up by the neck, and I really kind of like them. Like I don't like them all. Some of them, I showed you guys that one the other day that was a super bad hack job where they pulled the back off, they put the humbucker in it. It was like a shred humbucker, and then they put the back on, and then they didn't have any binding, so they filled it with plumber's putty. Like there was some bad ones, but there's some really good ones too, and they always seem to go between like 4 and 650. And you guys, then I mentioned it to you guys, and you guys started talking about arch tops too, and how you kind of had a relationship with them also. These are one of these. These are some guitars that I want to own just to have one, but I can't play them at all. Like I just can't. They don't feel good to me. But I mean, what are your experiences with these, you guys?
Go ahead, Clifton.
Okay. Well, I own I've mentioned this before, the Gibson ES-125. I've had that for about 3 or 4 years now. So, it's kind of a weird animal. Mine does have the P90 in it. But, we were talking about this the other day, and I mentioned, it dawned on me that both of my grandfathers who played guitar, I've got pictures of them playing archtops from the 30s and 40s. It definitely is kind of like a throwback to a different era, and you have to think about these guitars are not going to sound very modern at all, but if you kind of channel into the music from that era, you can have to edit that out.
Or you won't.
Okay, let's try again. So if you think about the music from that era, it kind of helps you get into some of the more roots-based music, and the jazz and the rockabilly and early country music.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, arch tops is kind of a nod back to the past, and so I dig them.
It's really interesting, Clifton, because your arch top, your 125, when I hear you play that acoustically, it doesn't sound like your typical arch top. It actually sounds more like, it sounds more open and more like a acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Would you agree there that one's a little bit different sounding than most of them that you played, or does that one just feel right in your hands because you've had it so long, or what?
Yeah, I love the way the neck is on that one, and like Nick has said, there's some that I've played that don't play very well. I've played my grandfather's Silvertone that had some damage at some point. I think the neck, like the heel on the neck, came out of place, and it was a kind of a makeshift job. But even the neck on that, it's not playable. It needs a setup, to put the kind of money into it to make it right. You're upside down in it. They're not all equal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like acoustically, that thing seems to be really responsive. Your 125. Listening to it, like in the videos that I've seen you play it seems like it's acoustically responsive more so than most of the arch tops that I've played.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Yeah, it's fun to hear in the office. Just pick it up and play, and not have to plug it into an amp. I enjoy that.
Yeah, and they're an odd design. Like one of the things I've noticed is like I don't feel like they should have a really tight like tone, right? Because they don't have the big and not a lot of bass response, because they don't have they're deeper guitars, the ones I play, but they don't have the big oval hole in the middle. They've got the F holes. So you would think it'd have the violin effect or the cello effect or even the mandolin effect, and it would make them, kind of really like a nice bright tight sound. But they definitely don't project very well from what I've seen. The sound kind of goes, it's like you can hardly, I don't know, to me it's like you can hardly hear it. And I've even seen some butcher jobs on reverb where they've like sawed ovals in the oval holes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like crazy, like unfortunate stuff. But I mean, probably just to get some more volume and some more bass out of it because they got that, high sound to them. And I don't know. I mean, were those were probably originally. You do see some like old timey like jug bands and stuff. People playing archtops.
No, I think what it is the approach is really different now. Because I know when I play mandolin, my mandolin's an arch. You've got a Breedlove mandolin, right? Those are flat tops with oval holes, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what you got as a flat top.
Yep.
Okay, so I've got an archtop Eastman, and for the attack and the way that you play an archtop mandolin, you don't get the response yourself. You don't actually hear the sound of the instrument yourself very much. You hear, and what I actually would do when I would practice is I would stand facing a wall and I would have it bounce back at me because it sounds because the sound is pushed out when you play it properly in archtop. You're getting that top pumping, it's kind of pumping out sound. And it's a way of like you attack it differently. And I think that's like if you listen to a lot of those old acoustic archtop players, they're hitting that thing hard with giant picks and heavy strings, and they might have low action and all that, but they're hitting that thing really hard. And they're making that top pump and they're pushing out that sound because people would play those archtops unamplified with big bands. They'd be playing, they'd be chopping chords on them like you would on a mandolin, or chopping out those jazz chords, those tight closed chords. And so for me, that's why I kind of like it on mandolin because it's easier to pump that back. Once you get the whole thing vibrating, you can blow out an acoustic guitar with a little tiny mandolin, no problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I could blow out if I sat there chopping, I'd be louder than an acoustic guitar. No problem on my mandolin. Mm-hmm. But I think that you kind of have to have the same approach with a archtop if that's what you're going to do. But that's why I was saying that Clifton sounds so big and full and warm because maybe it's because we're hearing it from the place where you're supposed to be hearing that guitar out in front of it, Yeah,
that's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the thing about a regular flat top guitar, flat top mandolin, flat top instrument is that hole, that sound hole is always, especially when we got a little bit of a belly, that hole is always kind of facing up at you and providing a little bit of a monitor. But they are, you know what I mean? And so maybe you feel more of that instrument because it's a lighter instrument and you can play it with lighter strings and you can get more of that response to you. But what's it sound like out in the room? Maybe it's not nearly as loud as you think it is, but most of the time they amplify them anyway.
That's an interesting perspective. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah. No, I haven't either, and it kind of makes sense that the reason why I have an oval hole mandolin when I had F-hole mandolins before, all A styles, is that maybe I'm used to. I want to hear it more. I'm used to hearing more, myself, not out, like you said, not out in front. I'm used to me hearing it, not anybody else. And I couldn't hear the F-hole mandolins very well, as opposed to mine, which has the oval hole and has a lot of like low end response.
Yeah. Those have a nice tubby sound. They're great for strumming and for playing. But the best part about those is you could actually sit there and play and sing with it, no problem, because you've got that nice big sound coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
But you might not hear that across the room quite so much, which might not be a bad thing. Because mandolins can sometimes get a little strident and annoying if you don't play them. If you play too much. For sure.
Well, that's a good perspective on that, and maybe that's what it is, and why I haven't. I mean, other than the necks and stuff, why I haven't really, I will say that I haven't played. The only electrified archtop I played wasn't a vintage one. I played the Epiphone one that the James Bay models kind of modeled after, and then the Triumph or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. And then I played the Lore one. There's a Lore one that's just like an archtop. Yeah, it does. That Lore one is fantastic. That was one of the first. In fact, that was the first archtop I sat down and said I could buy this instrument right now, and it was like $450 or something like that at Guitar Center.
Now there was
had a P90 in the neck.
Yeah. Now there was a at Elderly, and you probably didn't see this. I have a friend who plays left-handed, and so I kind of learned how to play a left-handed guitar right-handed just to mess around with it. His guitar. Mm-hmm. And so there was a right-handed guitar strung left-handed at Elderly. It was an Eastman archtop with an oval hole in it.
Huh.
and man, that thing sounded great. It was an archtop guitar with an oval hole in it, so it had like an oval sound hole, like a mandolin sound hole, with their mandolin binding on it. So I had that kind of the checkerboard pattern around the outside of that hole, and it had flat wound strings, really low action, but it was strung left-handed, so nobody played it. And so I sat there, I picked it up, I played that thing for about an hour, and it was so much fun to play because it sounded great. It was under $1,000. I almost said, okay, I'm gonna pony up and buy this thing, but I ended up not doing it for some stupid reason. Next time I came there, it was gone.
Are you left-handed?
No, I can play a left-handed guitar right-handed. I just flip it over. I just do the chords backwards.
Really?
Yeah, it's not hard. You just get used to it.
No, it's pretty hard.
No,
it's pretty hard.
No, it's not. No, man. Look. You think of it like a mandolin. You just think of it like a mandolin, and you got it, because your mandolins are strung in fifths rather than fourths. Mm-hmm. And if you think of it a left-handed guitar like a mandolin, and you just start thinking backwards like you do when you think of mandolin, you're all set. It's not hard.
I'd rather not. I don't need a math problem. I just want to play guitar.
Yeah.
I'd rather not think when I play music. Thanks.
Plus, it's a neat trick to do. It's a neat trick to do. Somebody's sitting there playing some crazy thing, and you grab a left-handed guitar and start playing. They'll clear the room pretty quick. They're like, "Oh crap."
Dude, that's a showstopper right there.
Now, if I could flip the guitar over and play left-handed, then that'd be something. But yeah.
Actually, I don't play guitar well, but I can play both ways.
Yeah. I was actually ambidextrous until I broke my my left wrist. So when I was a kid, so I could write and draw equally with both hands, and that kind of shifted over time after I broke my wrist and went over to my right hand. So yeah, that thing. I really love that thing, and it's really interesting because you got that archtop projection, but you've got it all coming out of that sound hole, and it's so huge because it's like you get that thing pumping, and it just blasts sound at you, And I think that's why those Selmer McPherys, the ones that Django played, they had a little bit of an arch to the back and a little bit of an arch and a gigantic top, and that back would act like it would kind of act like a pump, and it would pump the sound out.
And you're really into pumps, aren't you?
Well, yeah. I mean,
lots of pumping going on with these.
Yeah, I'm swole. I know, I'm swole. Yeah, that's
archtops give you. That's why That's why they're bulged. That's why they're arched, because they're pumped. They're swole.
Yeah, they're swole.
When an archtop be called swole guitars.
Yeah. Do you even use 14 strings, bro?
Do you even play flat wounds, bro?
Yeah. Well, this has been interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Took us places where we never thought we'd go.
Yeah, you probably better wrap this up, Clifton, before it gets worse.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. We've had fun, and I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
We'll see you.
All right. Later.